All right, so here we go. We're starting with Unit 2 Canvas Lab. This is course design and development. Before we get started, Diane, she just finished grading Unit 1, the Introduction to Canvas Management, and she had a couple points that she wanted to give out before we get started. She's going to talk about the conversations inbox communication, and then the calendar, some key things she noticed in the calendar. And then once she's done with that, then she'll turn it over to me, and then we'll talk about Unit 2. And then also I'll prep you for Unit 3 for next week. So that's our plan for today.
Hi, folks. Good to see everybody. With regard to the communications inbox, I have noticed in grading the Unit 1 assignments, very few people include that as a communication option. It's a great tool. So I do encourage folks to include it. The other thing is that sometimes with regular email, things get caught, things don't get through. You have a very, very tiny chance of that happening if you're using the conversations inbox, because it's all internal to Canvas. So definitely, big plug, use the conversations inbox. Make sure that you do put that into your contact options. Anytime you talk about this is how to get a hold of me, it's a good idea to include that. Now, it's not required. I won't mark you off if it's not there, if you have given adequate communication options. But again, it's highly recommended. It really will help considerably.
If you could go in the modules. And then in the getting started orientation, it's not our course, but click on the 0.2. So in the course, so like at the very line, and when Diane's saying it's very simple. So we look at Janet's information, you see her email, phone number, and then the conversations inbox, and then there's just a link to a tutorial, and that's the best way to that's all you would need to do as far as including that information in your profile, or if you want to do a bio page, your module, that's something really easy for you to do. And that link to the tutorial is a link to how to use that conversations inbox.
Yeah, so this is perfect because it gives your students the tutorial right there. This is what it is. This is how you use it. And again, I would recommend put it in your bio, put it in any place that you tell people this is how to contact me, include that.
And then you had some issues with the calendar that you noticed?
With regard to the calendar, I wanted to point out again that over here on the right-hand side, we have a list of calendars. And if the box is colored, that's what's going to show up. So for example, if I click this one, now you can see we have two different colors, two different classes showing up. Click it again, and now we just have the class that we're involved in. So you can change what you see on the calendar by making them available or not. And again, you'll have this list over here. This list is going to show anything that you have on your dashboard. So if something doesn't appear in this list, go over here to courses, all courses, find it in the list, and add it to your dashboard by clicking the star. You can see some of the stars here are orange, and when we go to the dashboard, those are the ones that are going to show up here. And again, when you're in the calendar, the list on the right-hand side will be populated with whichever courses are shown on your dashboard.
And this is very important too, and this kind of gets into Unit 3, because next week you're going to be tasked to create a calendar event. And so if you could click on the plus button, or not on the top right when you create an event, when you have multiple calendars turned on, it gets kind of confusing. The biggest problem here that people will do is they'll create their events, and then they'll have their calendar. You click here. So I only have one calendar turned on. Let's close out of this one real quick. And turn all the way up to the gray block. So my name all the way down to CTF4. Turn all of those on. Now click on the plus button. So now when you click on the plus button, people will sit there and go in and click submit. Well, your assignment is going to be to add a calendar to your training sandbox calendar. But if you notice, my calendar is selected here. So if I created this event, and if this was an event that was maintained for this class, and I click submit, it's assigned to my calendar, you'll never see it. So we kind of want to emphasize, always make sure you have the right calendar selected, because you could create an event and then send it out to the wrong class. And so for this one, you want to make sure, so close out of this one again. Turn off all until CT4. And then scroll down the calendar listing a little bit, right here, stop, right under admin, the Canvas Training Rogers. GC Canvas Training, right in the next one down. Go one more. There we go. Turn that one on. I'll go back up to the plus button. So when you go and you do your calendar information, you want to make sure click on the calendar, and then you want to make sure and set your GC Canvas Training Sandbox for your actual site. You know you have the correct calendar that you have selected. Because if you select, here's the thing here with Diane, who's the lead trainer for this, or the instructor for this, she only has access to this sandbox. So if you go in and you select Tina Young calendar or one of your AOJ calendars and submit that, she has no access on that, and since she can't view the assignment, that's going to be an automatic 0 for the assignment until you make the correction before the deadline date. Yeah. So make sure you select the correct sandbox.
Very important, and just I can share with you that when I was actually putting my regular class into Canvas, I went in and created a whole bunch of calendar stuff, not realizing that I was in a different class than I thought I was in. Had to go back and delete the whole thing and start over again. So it can be very frustrating, but again, when you do it, just look for this drop down where it says calendar, make sure that you're in the correct calendar, and then you will have no problem.
Perfect. Thank you, Diane.
And here's back to Chris.
All right, let's talk about Unit 2, Course Design and Development. Do we have any PDFs or Word documents that we can quickly access?
I have a flash drive that's full of stuff.
If not, well, I want them to create I want you to create a quick file. If we could, if you don't have like a file to work with, like a Word document or a PDF, we could go to our desktop here real quickly, and then just type in Word. And under apps, there's Word 2016, and then under apps, there's WordPad. Open up WordPad, because that's going to open up a lot quicker than Word. I just want a file that we can work with, because we're going to be working with content pages right now, and there's a specific thing with content pages that I want to show you. So if you have WordPad open, type, I don't care what you type. I'm going to say this is a document for my Canvas course. Just type something, and then say file, save as. We'll save this to our desktop. We could do RTF. RTF, for even those that are going to watch this video later. Ooh, screen sharing's paused. Make sure my screen sharing's set up here. RTF stands for Rich Text Format. Canvas uploads. I would recommend when doing your coursework or when you're doing your documents and anything you share with students, if it's in a Word format, I wouldn't necessarily do Word. When we think of accessibility and stuff, one of the major issues that we have, I'm a Mac user. So if you give me some, let's say, Tina, in AOJ, you give me a course document on an example case that we're studying in AOJ, and it's in Word. It's formatted specifically for Word, and I'm the Mac guy, and let's say I'm a student that doesn't have the ability, the rights of Word Office at the moment. I might not be able to open your document. RTF will open anyway. Or in the most case, I would say, and by default, whether it's a PowerPoint or a Word document or whatever, always save it PDF too, portable document. That'll open anywhere too. And it's important as we sit there with Canvas, and they have 2 mobile apps that are very stellar, Canvas Teacher and Canvas Student. As students are using them more on their devices now, it's more importantly to do those things in that specific format so that they can access those. So I saved that there. And what I'm going to do is, let's go into your training sandbox. Go into your training sandbox, and I'm just going to quickly show you what I'm focused on right now so we know where people online are who are going to be watching this video too. Right now we're talking about Unit 2, and I want to talk about creating a content page. That's item 2.6. So the general idea of this is just to create a basic content page. What is a content page? It's basically information you want your students to read. It was like in the equivalent of from Blackboard. If you use Blackboard, you know, you create a content item, and then you could just type in text and you give students to read something. So we're going to show you, and what I want to show is what is the proper way for you to display files to your students. So we're going to do that. So I'm going to go into my dashboard. And I am going to go into my training sandbox. And the first thing we want to do is upload the file that we just created. So you should have WordPad, created some file, saved it to your desktop. You need to upload that file into Canvas. So in the course menu, very second option from the bottom, there's files. It's right above the settings. I'm going to click on Files. And I'm just going to go ahead and do an arbitrary upload. In the top right-hand corner, there's a blue button that says Upload. I'm going to click on that blue button. I saved my file on the desktop, and I'm going to select the Canvas Upload document. You select whatever document you just created. And we'll just say Open. Give that a second to upload. It shouldn't be that quick. There we go. It uploaded right there. So did everybody's upload good?
The order that you have the things laid out on the left
Yes.
is different than what I have. I found files, but I just want to.
Files.
Can we move things around?
Now you're looking at the navigation. So it's course navigation. Yeah, we could move the navigation around and stuff like that.
Oh,
But for right now, that's separate than from what we're doing. I'll get to the navigation when we're ready to close out the course. Okay. Yeah, it's because I reorganized this in a specific way, and I'll show that to you before we end with the class today. All that's important now. Were you able to get to this end where you have a file uploaded at this? Let's see what we got over here.
Yeah, I can upload.
You okay, Tina?
And you?
So did you go on the desktop? Because you need a file to be able to see.
Right. That's what I just did. But I understand what I need.
But there's a hands-on thing that we want to work with. So there's actually something I actually want you to do. So let's open up. Let's type here. Type in Word.
And now for file.
Open.
Upload there. And then
File. Save as. Desktop. The name. Upload desktop. So Yusuf is good to go. So we have a file uploaded. And so when we create content pages, we are going to go in our course menu, we're going to refer, and you know what? I'm going to talk about the navigation because that is important. I'm going to do a segue here. So as we know with the navigation and everything else, we want to make sure that all coursework goes into the module section. We want to have one central place, whether you're going to be teaching a face-to-face course and you're just using Canvas to supplement your face-to-face, or if you're actually teaching online, you're doing an online course. We had issues in the beginning when we actually, this is a year anniversary since I actually started training or teaching this. People that started teaching in the spring of 2017, they had the assignments, they had the discussions, they had pages, they had all these, they had pretty much every single option here turned on. Confused students to no end. The more points of entry that you have, the more doors they enter in to get to your content, the more confused they were. So we wanted it in a central location. So with your navigation, I'm going to go into settings, and also really take note that with this is going to be a requirement on your final project at the end of the semester. So, or at the end of the semester, at the end of this course. So you want to make sure that you have this situated, and that's why I'm talking about it now. So I click on, in the course menus, I click settings, and then I go into the navigation. What you see on top is what students can see. And then what you see on bottom is what students cannot see. That's all the items that are hidden. So some of you might have some of these items dragged up here. If I wanted students to see these items, I could drag them up here. And if you have extraneous items up here, you could discussions, collaborations, assignments, conferences, you could drag all that stuff down here. You want to write this down. There are only 5 options that you only need within this course. That's home, your home page, your announcements, your syllabus, modules, and then grades. That's the only items that you need. Now, there are 4 items that we do not want to see in this course navigation bar. That's assignments, discussions, quizzes, and pages. And they're actually 5. Quizzes, pages, and then files. Those are the 5 items that I don't want to see in the navigation, because these are just going to confuse students even more. Assignments, discussions, quizzes, pages, and files. And if you look in going back in the actual CTF4 course, in the Introduction to Teaching in the Canvas course, there is a document in Unit 2 called Navigation Made Easy. That's 2.8. So this is 2.8. This is not an assignment. This is just something for you to read. There's a PDF where I go into great detail on the importance of having the announcements in this certain fashion. And so that's why you saw my menu was different than yours, because I had it in the bare bones fashion. And that's something for your final project you're going to want to do for yours too. So moving on with that. Oh, and by the way, when you change certain things, you can go ahead and click save, and then you would save your changes as far as anything you've made to your menu. You want to make sure you do that at the very end. Moving that, let's go back to creating a content page. I want to go to modules. And for a specific module that you're working with, and I'll just go ahead and do my Start Here one. These are just shell modules. Anytime you want to add an item to an actual module itself, first off, do you have any modules in yours? I realized, do you have any modules in yours? I'm really realizing what I'm talking about. Once you're actually working. You have some modules started. You don't have any modules. UCF doesn't have any modules. All right, so let's take a look. Let's create an actual module first. To create a module, in the top right-hand corner, do you see where that blue button where it says module? Now, when you actually do this on your own, you're going to want to refer to your course outline. You know, the course outline you created in the Getting Started Orientation module. Your course outline is going to serve as the foundation for the 2 modules you create in your training sandbox. So when you create your modules, when you create your whole content item list, when you create your content items, they have to align with your course outline initially. Later on, as you go down the course, you're going to realize, oh, I could do it this way, I could do this, and you could evolve. But for the initial assignment for Unit 2, it's going to have to align when you create your 2 modules. So when you create them and you add your modules, you'll have your outline with you, and you're going to name your module, your first module, in whatever the title is on the outline that you created. So mine is usually Getting Started Orientation.
And just go ahead and create one, you can always change the name later.
Yeah, you can always change the name. It doesn't have to be accurate right now. This is just for hands-on, just to demo it and show it to you.
That's one of my doubts. Like, when I start working on a unit, can I start creating stuff, like for example, this one, and then go back to it and just go
You
back?
can always change and modify it and work it in whatever way you feel that you see fit.
Until the deadline.
Right. Yeah. So you notice anytime you create a module, it goes down to the very bottom of the listing. And what I did here is, if you notice, there's a little box here, rectangle box with some lines here. I can drag this box up, and then I can drag it whichever way that I want. And I dragged mine all the way up at the top. So mine's all the way up top here. So we should have a module that we're actually working with. Now, what I want to do is add a content page. Again, this is just an item you want your students to read. To add a content page, or any content item in general, you go over to the far right-hand side, and you click on the plus button. And you have an add item menu. So we're going to add an item to the getting started orientation menu. Now you want to make note here that you select the correct content item when you create your modules. Remember, when I did the context, let me go back, let me get out of this real quick. I'm going to go into the actual course here. When I go back into the actual CTF4 course, with the outline that you created, you see here, and I say the context, where I have 2.1, overview, read. There's a graded assignment, there's a discussion, there's a quiz. These are there for a reason, not just for the students to inform them what the item is and what the objective for that item. This is for you yourself, so you know what items that you need to create. So when I want to have something, if I want to create a content item that a student needs to read, I create a content page. Graded assignment, that's self-explanatory. I create an assignment. And then if I need to create a discussion, I create a discussion page, and a quiz, I create a quiz. So when we're going for our modules, we're going to click on the Add Content Item button. And for your first item, if it's something, again, like I said, a student needs to read, we're not going to create an assignment. We're going to create a content page. Okay? So going over this menu item, there are 4 content item types that you'll be using. It would be a content page, a discussion, a quiz, and an assignment. And this is very important to understand, because as Diane is, when she's going to grade your modules and everything else, if you use the wrong content item for that area, so for example, if you create a content page when in reality your outline says it's supposed to be a graded assignment, then Diane's you'll get marked off for that. So you want to make sure you have the right content item. So in this instance, what we're going to do is create a content page. Did you have something to mention?
Yes, also, if you do it wrong, so it's supposed to be a content page and you call it a discussion, that's an epic fail. You have to go back, recreate it as what it should be, and delete the first one. So this is really important. Make sure you get it right, so that it is the correct type of module item, because yeah, I verified this with campus support. If it's wrong, you have to start over again.
So I want you to go in and let's create a content page. So you're going to say add content page, and then give it a page name. Right now it's going to be something, name it whatever you want right now. But always remember, when you're actually doing your assignment, you want the correct numbering convention, clear and descriptive titles, as well as the context for your actual item. I'm going to click on add item. And we have the item here. It's listed in black. Now take note too, as you're looking at my screen here, I have 2 modules open. I have this module 1 that says verbs, and then I'm getting started orientation. Notice that my 1.1 welcome is all black. It's black, and then off to the very far right, there is this no smoking sign right here. However, with the verbs, all my items here are all green with green check boxes. That shows green means the item's published, students can see it. Black means students cannot see it. So if you want your students to see this item, you can click on the no smoking sign, it turns into a check mark, and then you notice your item is now black. Now, to add content to this content item, I'm going to click on welcome. I'm going to click on the top right-hand corner. I'm going to say Edit. And now I'm in the Rich Content Editor. And we're going to add a file. We're going to add the file that we just created. And one of the things when we talk about as far as how we display files to students, I'm big on context. I'm sure you've heard around the notion content is king. I kind of disagree with that. I say context, especially in an educational environment, context is king. Because you're trying to provide your students with the right information, in the right frame of mind that they need that you want them to understand in the direction that you want your course to go. And that's really easy to do when we're in a classroom. I can be in one of your AOJ classes, forensic photography. You can give me the context that I need. But the problem is when this separates us. And now I'm based on my own interpretation from my own limited experience on AOJ and forensic photography on how I'm supposed to review your work. And if you don't provide me the right context, you could send me down a different path that you don't want me to go, and trying to get me back on that path is very important. So what I do is I try to answer, anytime I add content, I try to answer 3 questions. What, why, and how. What is the document? Why does the student need to pay attention to it? And how do they access it? So usually I'll sit there and I'm just going to do this off the top of my head. Here is information on how to properly read an accident scene photograph. Side tangent, I was friends with I met a police officer at Starbucks one time, and she was an accident scene that she used to go and read those. And she used to show me, she gave me like a 2-hour lesson on outside of what those are, but it was such a fascinating thing. So anyways, yeah. How to properly read an accident photograph. So that's the what. Here's the information on how to properly read an accident scene photograph. Here's the why. And if you don't give students why they need to read something, we live in the ADD age, and if they don't sit there and see why they need to pay, they're not going to pay attention to it. They're going to go to the next document. So I write, you will need to pay attention to this information as it will be on the final exam. You can view this document directly in Canvas or click on the link title to download it to your computer. So I have what is the document? Here's the information on how to properly read an accident scene photograph. You'll need to pay attention to this. Why? Because this information is going to be on the final exam. Students are going to pay attention to it a lot more. And then I tell them how to view the document directly in Canvas. This is not remotely clear. If you don't provide this information, it's not remotely clear on how students can access it. Now the final thing that we need to do is we need to display the file. I'm going to bring you over to the content selector, which is located on the right-hand side. The content selector is broken down into 3 main tabs: links, files, and images. Links, you could link to any page, any content page within your course, any assignment, any quiz, any announcement, discussions, anything within the course itself. As far as the navigation is concerned, you can link to all of that. And I'll go into more details of that in future workshops. But for now, we're going to focus on the files section. I want you to click on the files tab. On the files tab, you can click on, and you see where my file is. I'm going to click on my Canvas upload file, and it's going to be listed right there. So it's going to be listed right here. We're not done yet. What I want you to do, you can either do this, follow along with me, or write this down. I want you to highlight the file that you just linked. And I'll repeat this again too if we need to. Then in the toolbar, there is a chain link icon up at the top. You see where it says link to URL. There's a chain link that says link to URL. I'm going to click on that chain link. And there's a link here that says auto open the inline preview for this link. I'm going to click on that link. And then I'm going to say update link. Once I'm done with that, I can save the file. Yeah, definitely will. I just want to show you the actual file and how it shows. It's loading a little bit slow.
Couldn't you just have the document just right there in the narrative and then click on that and then it pulls up?
It could, and you could do that, and I'll show that to you too. It's this one. Let me refresh this.
Or the other one just gives you.
The one that I like about it, and since that's loading, I know this one's going to load. I'm going to show you my syllabus. The one I like about it is it just shows. So it's right here in the actual. If you look up on my screen right here, you can see the document, and within Canvas, they could just one-click the documents right there. We're showing.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay. This is not showing the option to do that. So where did we go?
Let's see. So the issue is. No, it's no. First off, it's not a link because it would be a little.
Oh, okay.
So I'm going to click over here. You want to try and click there. Now I know it's blue. Then I select, click the chain link, and I say auto open, update. Although, as you can see, it's right here. Now, Tina asked a good question. What if you just post the link? What do you see? I'm going to create another real quick document here. You could just watch what I do on screen. So let me go back here. I'm just going to create another content page. You don't have to do this one. You can just follow along with what I'm doing here. I'm going to say new page. We'll say 1.2, 1.2, some documents. Now, if you create another one, and if you don't do the auto open, I would write this, you do your what, why. Your how is going to be just as important if you don't do the auto open inline preview. Let's say click on the link title to download this document, or click on the page icon to the right of the title to view it directly in Canvas. Why do I do that? So when I click on Files and I just say Canvas Upload, and I'm not doing the auto open, I'm just doing Canvas Upload. If I say Save and Publish, that's what I see.
Right. They can miss it.
They can miss it, and they don't say. And a lot of people, like most instructors, when they'll do their documents and stuff, they don't add this here. And I guarantee your students will miss it when you have this here, and they won't even know to click on this one to be able to have this come up. Not to mention it's 1, 2, 3. I have to wait for it to load and then click on that, that here. I have to wait for it to load. When you just do auto open, I click on one document. I click on this little arrow right here, and immediately I'm in the document and I can actually read it. So it's a lot easier to read.
When I hit save, it's going through the whole hour.
Yeah, it's a little thinking right now because we're in the room right now. The internet's not that great here. So that's it. So if you just have one document that you have to display, like this one, do the auto open. When you're looking at, if you can look at I'll show you a format, and this is in Module 5. You can't view this in the course, but in Module 5, there is a final projects requirements list. And a lot of them, I do bullet points because I can't do that auto open for every single document because you'll be scrolling forever. Yeah. But I at least say if you look up here, there's a resource link here, and I'd say click on the page icon to view these directly or download. I give them that context on how to read these actual documents. So always include that. And that's something that when Diane, she's going to be reviewing your final projects. If it's a single document, auto open so they can quickly access it. If it's a bulleted list, at least have this copy here. And anything that, and I emphasize too, and anybody that watches this later on in the recording, anything that you see within my course that any copy, any documents, you see these little lines that I have, steal anything you want out of this course that you feel is relevant that can help you in yours. Does that make sense? Does anybody want me to go back over anything? Okay. You have a question, Lisa?
Yes, the hyperlink. So if I did that, but when I clicked on it, doesn't show anything. No.
So you added a hyperlink to a file, you click on it, and it doesn't show anything. Well, normally it's supposed to just download it to your computer. Oh, and this one right now, it's loading. This is the nature of the room that we're in right now, so I wouldn't be too concerned about it right now. Because that's happening to me right now, too. So this one took a while for me to load as well. Actually downloaded. Now I want to make note of something here. Let's pretend that this is my content page assignment right now. When I go to submit this, this is the URL. So I know I'm on my pages and I'm on my welcome, 1.welcome welcome. That's what I want to submit Diane for Diane to grade. For the 2.6 create a content page assignment. Okay? Obviously, this example would be applicable to your course, and this item would match to something that aligns with your outline. Before you make your submission, you have one or two things I encourage you to do. Either one, if you're unsure about the link that you're about to submit, send Diane in the message in the conversations inbox. Hey, Diane, I'm about to submit for the 2.6 or whatever assignment may be. Is this the correct link? Or what you do is I go into a new browser, I go into a new tab, and I paste the link again and make sure that, is this the correct page that I'm going to send? Diane, you mentioned a couple times with the you had some incorrect links that you had with some submissions recently. Mm-hmm. So to make it clear, if Diane goes in, she only has access to your course. If she finds a link that's incorrect, it's an automatic 0 for the assignment. Now she's going to send a message to you in the submissions comments, in the assignment comments. Hey, you submitted the wrong link. Please resubmit the correct link before the deadline date, which will be next Sunday for this assignment. And if that correction is not made, that 0 still stands. But if you submit the correct link, the correct URL link before the deadline, then she'll go ahead and grade the assignment accordingly. But the point that I'm trying to get at is with every rubric, and you'll notice in our grading rubrics, you know, page created, the URL address, the URL address you submit must point to a content page you created in a training sandbox. So you could create, and I've had this with other faculty members, they've created their content page, it works fantastic, but it's in a 2016 spring course. And it doesn't align with these instructions. So even if you did the page, great, you created a module and it would be applicable to a real course. If the URL address is incorrect and it doesn't point to the correct location in your training sandbox, Dan's gonna mark you accordingly. So always make sure you submit the correct links, and you're more than welcome if you submit your assignment early enough, she would be more than happy, or if you send her a message early enough, she'd be more than happy to check it for you to make sure everything's correct. Also, real quickly, 2.9, as I'm going to kind of go into the home page real quickly. When we go 2.9, this is not an assignment area 2, and this is not even a requirement for you to read. You could skip this if you want to. This is totally optional. But what 2.9, I've gotten a lot of questions on how to create these home buttons right here, the announcements, syllabus, modules, these home buttons on my home page. I've gotten a lot of questions on these. So if you ever wanted to learn how to create these actual buttons on your homepage, which I'm about to talk about, you could read this document here. Again, it's not required and will have no scope or play on your final project. Yeah, go ahead.
It was mentioned to me
that the navigation menu on the left doesn't always show up if you're on a mobile device.
Yeah.
So having those buttons is extremely helpful for students because they can go directly to where they need to get to, even if they're on a mobile device and don't have the navigation.
Yeah, it's a good point. Good point. On a mobile, it makes it a lot easier to navigate on an iPhone or Android. Also, this is real popular too. You know, at the very top left-hand corner, you see where I call it the hamburger button. This is real popular. People click on this, and I'll get calls. The menu disappeared. I can't see it. I can't navigate the course. I call it the hamburger button. So when I do that, when I click on this, I solve my problem because they could still they could still navigate my course in any fashion that they see fit. So those are the reasons why I have them there. So they're nice. They're, again, not required. They're nice, but they're good to go. Now, let's talk about the home page and how it relates and how they relate to modules. Yes, go ahead.
One final thing, when you're creating those buttons, the instructions tell you to write the word, 2 spaces, write the word, 2 spaces, write the word, 2 spaces, and then the final one. When you are actually creating the button, you need to highlight the word. Don't highlight the 2 spaces after the word, just the word itself. If you highlight the 2 spaces after the word, your buttons are all smushed together.
And and to give you some context is what she's talking about, and I'll go into edit to sit there and see. When I go into edit mode, you notice that these are just all text. The actual green part of the buttons disappear. And what she's talking about is the space between these two words: announcement, space, space, syllabus, space, space, module, space, space. So the buttons are really easy. They add a lot. You're more than welcome to add them too. Now, I want to go into, if there are no other questions, I want to go into, real quickly talk about the home page and the modules, because they kind of tie in together depending on what you do. I want to talk about the home page. This is 2.7, choose a home page. Now, with the 2.7 choose a home page assignment, you're going to learn that there are 4 main items, 4 or 5 items that you could sit there and choose from. A course activity stream, pages front page, which is basically a content page that you've created and designated to be the course home page. The course modules, which is just a list of the modules in your course. You could do it an assignments list, or you can just do a link to your syllabus. Now, in the video that I do right here, I show you how to create a pages front page home page. And it'll make more sense when you actually go through and watch the assignment. That's the one that I recommend that you choose. So in the choose home page option here, this is pages front page. And you can choose it right here.
How did you get to that again? Oh,
Choose home page. Now, I go through and I teach you how, in that 2.7, I teach you how to create this. And ultimately, when you watch the assignment and stuff like that, I recommend that you go with this. It leaves you with a lot more flexibility on what you have to offer. And in this section here, in this homepage, you know, here, all I've chosen to do in mine, I kept it really simple. I have a banner that I created. I have those buttons that I created, and I just have a link list here that goes to key pages within my modules section. You could write a course description, student learning outcomes. This is where you have the freedom to be a little more creative. You know, a lot of people, when they initially got into this, they were disappointed because you can't really add anything to the course menu like you can in Blackboard, so to speak. And so they felt that kind of limited them. But they were really refreshed to know that they had the freedom to pretty much add whatever information they wanted to add here in the homepage area. Now, and I say this for people that are probably going to be watching this later on YouTube, you do have an option to choose other items. One of the other popular items that they choose is the course modules page. So basically what that would be is if I chose course modules, I'd say save. You'd sit there and on the home page, you'd see a whole module listing of all this stuff here. However, there is a very important caveat to anybody that chooses to do this fashion right here. If if you choose this here, in your very first module, the very first item here better have a clear idea on how to get started in the course. If I show you, I'm going to show you in the modules. I'm going to go real quickly to the requirements with Unit 4. No, Unit 5 I need to go to. With the final project requirements. The home page provides a brief description of the course, clear instructions on how to get started, and provides working links to the overview pages of each module within the course. At least one announcement appears on the home page. So if you choose a modules as your home page, that's fine. However, to meet the final project requirement for this home page, Diane is going to be assessing the very first page, that's the first button that they click to see. Does that make sense? Otherwise, I would recommend, it would make it a lot easier for the rest of this project. Just go through the tutorial and follow through with the pages, front page, how to create that, and it will solve that issue. If anybody needs any clarification on that, please let me know. Also, before you leave, Tina, when you create your modules and everything else, one of the things that we would like to see is an overview page. And later on, I have a template that I'll be showing people. I won't do it today since you have to go, but I could give you a template of these. But what we want to see in your modules for every module, so basically, I'm going to assume that you're going to be doing an orientation module and then one learning unit module, okay? And for the learning unit module, I would like to see an overview page that gives you an overview. What is this module? What does it contain? Is it just documents that we're going to use in our reading materials for a lecture class? And then whatever. And then if there's student learning objectives, and then what you need to do to create those requirements, that would be something that would be part of the final project as far as an overview page on how to do it. You don't have to follow this exact format, but just as long as Diane can click on an item there and says, this is what this module is and this is what you'll be doing, we'll serve that notion there. That's the only other part that I wanted to sit there and let you know.
And the overview is nice because it's got links to each of the things they're supposed to do. Okay.
Let's see if there's any other quick things that I would sit there and go through with that. Did that make sense overall, Tina, before you take off? Okay,
So
good.
for this assignment, is, let's say, more interesting for me to work on the getting started or my first lecture, per se, my first unit?
Do with the getting started because that's an easy one to get started with. And basically all you have here, when we say 2 modules, you don't have to complete 2 full modules for a course. In the actual course, you're going to learn how to create a content page, an assignment, a discussion, and a quiz. Those are 4 items. And those 4 items make up your entire course. Now for the final, and the assignments here are going to teach you how to do that. With the final project, I'm only going to ask you to create 4 more of those items on your own. So out of your 2 modules, all you need is a total of 8 completed content items within your course. 4 that you learned that you did as far as part of your assignment, and then 4 you've done on your own. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So I don't want to make it seem like it's overwhelming that you have to do 2 complete modules that you're going to do in the course that you would actually have as far as a training course is concerned.
But that would mean then, for this assignment, I would be doing my getting started.
Right.
And for my final, I would be doing my unit 1.
Right. But for when you're doing your modules,
Okay.
now when you're doing your module, when you're creating on the create, and you'll watch with the create module assignment, please watch this. And actually, let's just start this real quickly. For this screencast today, I will be covering the expectation. All you're doing, so when you're doing this, you see my outline here. This is the outline of my course. Getting started, and then unit 1 that you actually sit there and do through. This shows you how to create each shell. So when I told you, when we went through and we created the actual content page, all you did was create the content page itself. So you actually have an outline of your course. This would be a full outline that you would teach. Now, out of all of this, you're going to just create the shell for each of these items. This video will show you how to do that. But out of these items here, and I have 19, I have 9, I have 8, there's 17 items here. For my final project, if this is an outline that you have, you only need to do 8. 4, as far as what the course teaches you, Unit 2 is going to teach you how to create a content page. Unit 3, you're going to learn how to create a discussion. And then Unit 4, you're going to learn how to create an assignment and a quiz. That's half the work. And then for your final project, you would have to create 4 more of those items on your own. Does that make sense?
Now it clarifies in my mind. It was sounding like right now I would work on like getting started. Then for my final project, I would do the Unit 1 because I would be repeating the same type of things.
Right.
But I understand now, so not really.
No.
It's 4 more
items. We want to see the entire outline of your 2 completed modules, but you don't have to complete every single element within those. Does that make sense? So that makes it a lot easier for you in your course. And that's what we wanted to establish here and make clear for this Unit 2 assignment.
So we would be choosing randomly whatever we want to do for the final project. So let's say, like according to yours, I could be doing my instructional content.
Yeah.
And then my enrichment and my whatever.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah. So I'll try to explain it one more time. And I'm not doing this for you. I'm also doing this for the video too. So you're doing 4 item assignments throughout the Unit 2, 3, and 4. You're going to create content page, a discussion, assignment, and a quiz. Then on your own, you can create a combination of any of those 4 items. You could create 2 assignments and 2 discussions. You could create a quiz and 3 content pages. You can do any combination of what those are. Just as long as you there's a questionnaire, and I ask you what did you complete, so we know what to actually review in your outline. As long as you just specify these are the 4 items that I completed, that's what she's going to be basing it on, as well as what you completed in the actual course. So it doesn't have to be full overwhelming. We're not sitting here saying complete 2 full completed modules, because that would be too overwhelming to do in 5 weeks.
But it sounded like that when we first started. So
Yeah. That's why I wanted to clarify that here.
I understand completely.
Because the most important thing right now is being able to get you to understand the tool and how to lay out your course. And once you have that laid out part, and that's the part where I was like, yes, we want you to lay it out, but you don't have to have it all completed. We want to give you the foundation to be able to say, okay, this is the blueprint, right? Here's the blueprint. We're going to lay that out. And by the end of it, you'll feel confident enough to continue from where you left off and be on your own. And that's what we wanted to make clear. Did I answer your question? Perfect. Awesome. That's what I like to see. So also, be a big help if you watch this video too. It'll also reinforce everything that we've talked about today. That pretty much covers it for Unit 2. I want to just do a quick overview for Unit 3. As we know, you do have the ability to work ahead since we are on Unit 2. If you complete Unit 2 soon, you can, and Diane grades it in enough time, you can move on to Unit 3 and finish that. But Diane will not grade that until Unit 3 starts next Monday. Unit 3 is communication. Unit 3 is kind of a really easy module to work through. You'll basically be going over, you'll be learning how to create a discussion, a calendar item, and this is the calendar item where we talked about, you want to make sure that you select the correct calendar for this assignment. So I'm going to go over that calendar. I'm going to reemphasize what Diane talked about at the beginning of the workshop today. You want to make sure off in the far right-hand side that the only calendar that you have turned on is your GC Canvas Training Sandbox. And I know it's turned on when I have, right now I have it grayed out. You don't see it. But when I have it turned on, it's red and you can actually see it, and you can see my 1.4 quiz right here. But you want to make sure that you have the calendar, the correct calendar selected. Also, when I talk about context here too, I'm going to actually go ahead and create an event. I'm going to call this office hours. And I'm going to do office hours on, let's say, the 15th of November from, let's do 12 p.m. to 2 p.m. 2 hours of office hours located at 70-215. Now, most instructors will go ahead and submit this and then call it done. But the problem that I have with this is when a student clicks on this, there's no context here. It just says office hours from 12 to 2 and 70-215. What does that mean? Do I call the instructor and make an appointment? What can I cut? What can I bring to the table? What's going to be covered? What can I talk to you about? What things do I need to bring? So when we're working with when you learn how to create a calendar item, one of the most important things is add context. How do we add context? Or I mean more details to an actual event? I could go ahead and click on more options. I would sit there, this office. Do you have office hours, Dan?
I do.
What do you normally cover for your office hours?
Basically, almost nobody ever takes advantage of it.
Mm-hmm.
So for me, it would be anything related to the course. If you have a question,
Office hour?
something, anything like that.
Are available to discuss any issues that you may have about the course. Contact me via the conversations inbox to schedule a 30-minute appointment. Make sure and bring your syllabus. Ignore the spelling errors, but the point is to provide some level of information to that student. Even if it's a field trip, where's that field trip? What will we be doing or anything else? If you submit something and it's just nothing there, Diane will mark it off accordingly for the actual assignment. So that's the important thing. With discussions, let's look at discussions real quickly as a quick overview. There are a couple settings with discussions, and this is really not anything as far as when you create them. This is just more as far as information purposes go. For actual discussions, when I create them, a couple things that you want to note is if you need to allow threaded replies. Threaded replies means you were allowed, when the discussions that you participated in so far, you reply to the initial prompt, which is the one I told you to reply to. And then Diane comes and she wants to reply to your prompt. That's that threaded reply. If this was unchecked, Diane would not be able to reply to anything that you said. Does that make sense? Yeah. Also, one of the most important ones that I would recommend is users must post before seeing replies. That's huge.
I think so too.
Yeah. Because we understand what that means. I say this in context for the video. If I sit there and if I don't do that, that's unchecked. Student can come in and see everybody's posts, and then all they need to just do is paraphrase whatever somebody else says, and they're good to go. So that's important. But graded, if you want graded items, you can say graded, and you can add points possible. Come Unit 4, which Unit 4 we won't talk about until after Thanksgiving. We'll get into rubrics, which are going to be an important part, and we'll show how rubrics work as well. So in context, we could it's 2:17 now. I've covered everything pretty much I've covered. I don't know if Diane wants to add any closing thoughts. If you folks have no other questions, that concludes this lab today. And just remember, your assignments will be due by this Sunday, no later than 11:59 p.m. And again, for anything that you need to submit for Unit 2, please make sure if you have any questions or doubts about the link that you're about to submit, just send it over to, hey, Diane, for the 2.6 creative content, this is the link that I'm going to send. Is this the correct link? And she'll be more than happy to confirm it for you. Yes, Diane.
Yeah, and highly recommend submit stuff early so that if there is an issue, you have time to fix it before the deadline.
That was a big issue that I had, because I taught this at the beginning of the semester, a 5-week course, and a lot of instructors, they submitted at the very end, and they had changes that they had to make, and it was like at the very last hour, I tried to get it back to them as soon as I could, but when they don't have time to correct it, that the later you submit it, it puts more of a burden on us for us to teach you properly and how to use Canvas. So if you could get in as early as, I understand we're all busy and everything else, and that's kind of why we give you the weekend to actually get this done. But if you could get it in as soon as you can, the easier it is, we can help you to accomplish your work. Oh, thank you. I'm going to go ahead and stop the share.